Hello everyone. I've been thinking for a while about what to put on the internet, what to put on YouTube, and the thing that kept coming back to my mind was books. And I know that seems a little strange. It's almost strange to anymore read a book. It's almost anathema on the internet anymore. But I have been an avid reader since a very young age. Basically ever since I found out that books were more interesting than Fun with Dick and Jane. I have been an avid reader. So what qualifies me to talk about books? I have two of the main qualifications. I like books and I can read. So, it can only go up from there. As far as what are my, type of books that I really like, I'm really into the fantasy genre. I have a few sci-fi books. I have a few biographies. I'm trying to think if I have any westerns. I've read a few. I read Shane a number of years ago, but I don't think I actually have any. Anyway, some of my favorite books, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, very high up on my list. I really like the Shannara series. Can't say much for the show. Anyway, my favorite out of the Shannara series is the Elfstones of Shannara. It was the second book that Terry Brooks wrote in that series. And haven't been real impressed with the most recent ones. Terry Pratchett is another favorite of mine. Very much enjoyed the Discworld series. So, what book did I pick to talk about for my first video? This one. Let's see if I got it in there right. That way. Death's Messenger. And you're thinking, of course, that makes total sense. No, well, the thing is that I read this book, and when the impression came to me to put together this video, this is the book I had just finished. So, that's why I'm talking about Death's Messenger. I'm not a huge Warhammer fan. I was introduced to Warhammer relatively recently. I had a friend back in high school that played Warhammer 40K. Was into the whole miniatures and stuff, but I didn't really get an introduction to it. I never saw any of his miniatures. I saw one of the books that had the models and stuff in it that he brought to class one day. And I looked through it, but I didn't really get into the lore or anything. It wasn't until later a friend of mine wanted to do some Warhammer RPG, some of the fantasy RPG, that I really got into it. He introduced me to Gotrek and Felix, which is a great entry point for anybody who's sitting there thinking, what Warhammer books should I get into? The Gotrek and Felix books are excellent. Written by a few different authors, but definitely excellent. Why did I choose this book to read? Well, I'm a huge fan of Sandy Mitchell. For those of you who have done any of the Warhammer stuff, read any of the Warhammer stuff, you may have come across him. The Black Library is pretty big, but the Caiaphas Cain novels written by Sandy Mitchell are just great. They're funny, they're adventure, there's just a lot of stuff in them. Anyway, so I was at the local thrift store. I go there and I look for books, and I found this one, and it said Sandy Mitchell, so I snapped it up. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Sandy Mitchell. The Caiaphas Cain novels, those are set in the Warhammer 40K as opposed to the Warhammer Fantasy universe. But because I was a fan of Sandy Mitchell, I picked up this one, Death's Messenger. So, the general story is, if you're unfamiliar with Warhammer, I want you to picture Tolkien and the Tolkien universe. Dwarves, elves, humans, all that kind of stuff. And then I want you to think way darker. So, with the Tolkien universe, yeah, the Dark Lord's on the horizon and stuff, and we got to get the ring into Mount Doom and destroy it to break the Dark Lord's power. Warhammer, on the other hand, it's more like the apocalypse is today. If everything goes right, maybe we can postpone the apocalypse till tomorrow. So basically, the mindset of the people is that we could die at any time now, and it's dirty and squalid, and the elves are kind of off by themselves and they won't mix with anybody else. The dwarves are kind of in decline. They've lost a lot of their ancestral territory. There are orcs running rampant everywhere. The forces of chaos send incursions from the north, whenever they can and whenever they, basically every weekend. It's like, there's another chaos incursion. But basically in this setting, the humans and the dwarves are allied with each other. The elves, like I said, they do their own thing. They don't tell anybody. They just do their own business. And if you get in the way, you get squashed. The dwarves and the humans have been allies forever. Okay, so they get along pretty well, considering the way dwarves work in the 40k, or shouldn't say 40k, in the Warhammer setting. And you got to think witch trials and medieval Europe and that kind of stuff constantly. So because of the forces of the chaos, because the apocalypse is tomorrow, we have these fanatics that are part of the Empire. They're sanctioned. They go out, they hunt down demons, they hunt down witches, they hunt down the forces of chaos, and they eradicate them. And they have basically carte blanche to do whatever they need to in the name of the Emperor and in the name of staving off the apocalypse for one more day. So, into this, we are introduced to Rudy Walder. Rudy is a mysterious orphan, and in most fantasy settings, that would be a good thing. Because the trope is that the mysterious orphan has a mysterious destiny. And that holds up true here, but with the added caveat that we don't know who set his destiny. It could be the forces of chaos, it could be the forces of good, we just don't know. And because of that, Rudy isn't well received in his area. He's tolerated and things, but he's definitely an outsider. He lives on the outskirts of town with his adopted father. They're foresters. They live in the woods. And Rudy basically just he does stuff with his father. He learns to track, learns to hunt, that kind of thing. And then he basically becomes the de facto postman in his area. He runs packages to and from places. He runs letters for the notables as a way to pick up extra money. He kind of has a very frictional relationship with another girl in town and some of the boys. Well, as he's going about his duties, he ends up running into some spore from beastmen. And these beastmen basically attacked a farm. Just trashed it. And I'm getting ahead of myself. He actually found them in the woods. One of the other boys in town tried to push him into a bramble bush, and he ended up stepping out of the way. And the other kid got caught in the bramble bush, got scratched up. And that comes back to haunt him, actually. But they find this farm stead that's been just destroyed by the beastmen. And a witch hunter appears in town. And once again, these witch hunters they're the ones that are meant to root out chaos. And basically they see chaos everywhere. And so this guy is immediately suspicious of everyone in town. Everyone, including Rudy, because he realizes Rudy is kind of this mysterious orphan. And he's trying to stave off the forces of chaos for just one more day. So, come to find out, yeah, this town is a hotbed for chaos. There is a secret chaos cult in this town. And the witch hunter believes that Rudy and this other girl, I'm trying to remember her name. Let's see. If I can find it real quick, I will tell you. Hannah. There we go. Hannah. He figures that Hannah and Rudy, these two young people in town, are part of it. And so he sets his sights on them. And what happens? Well, Rudy and Hannah grab just whatever they can and they hightail it. I mean, that's what you have to do in this case. There is no higher authority at this point. They can't just go and say, I want to see your boss, or I want this to go up the chain of command. Basically, if this witch hunter thinks you are a witch, you are a demon, you are some conduit for chaos, if you are tainted in any way, you can be burned at the stake, and he can do it right then and there. He doesn't have to wait for a higher authority. He doesn't have to wait for that. So Hannah and Rudy, they hightail it. They get themselves gone. And so the rest of this story deals with them trying to escape from this witch hunter. They run into other threats. They run into friends. And while it's not Caiaphas Cain, not quite as good as those, definitely a good read. I very much enjoyed reading this. I was constantly wanting to get ahead, try to figure out where they were going to end up, what was the end point of the story. And because of that, I ended up getting the next two books in the series. This is book one, Death's Messenger. Let me see if it says what I do not think it says what the series is. I'll have to check that on the next book. But this is book one in the series, so Rudy and Hannah have further adventures after this. But they are, in this one, they're pursued quite hotly by this particular witch hunter. Let me say, if you're squeamish at all, you may want to skip this one, because for those of you who are in the know with the Warhammer universe, the chaos god that's involved is Nurgle. Yes, Nurgle. For those of you who don't know anything about Warhammer and are coming to this fresh, Nurgle is the god of basically disease. Anything rotting and pus-filled, yeah, that's Nurgle. So, if you're easily, disturbed by descriptions of that nature, yes, you might want to skip that one. Other than that, it's, like I said, it's a good read. I very much enjoy the works of Sandy Mitchell, and I'm looking forward to the next Caiaphas Cain novel, which comes out next year, and I'm definitely going to put that on my to-read list. So, if you have any questions, please hit me up. I'll talk about books with you. Let me know what books you like. Hey, I might have read it. I can review it if you're interested in my opinion. And let me know what you thought of this particular video. Plan to put some more up. So, like I said, I'll go and I will be reviewing the rest of the books in this series. I read this one, very much enjoyed it, and so I read the next two. And yeah, hit me up.